tonight, Melinda Akilami.
And welcome. Tonight, students of the Federal University Gusau protest continuous kidnapping in their areas of residence, vow not to sit for examination until all their colleagues abducted by bandits last night are released. Lagos State Building Control Agency set to demolish 17 defective buildings at the Alaba International Market. Owners of structures say they have nowhere to go. Tech icon and co-chair of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, visits Nigeria next week to discuss global health and development and meet young leaders. And it's Black Saturday in Uganda as about 40 students are killed by militants linked to Islamic State group after attacking a school in the western part of the country.
And on business news tonight, Nigeria's local bourse sustains bull run with a 5.49% advance for the trading week, with the all-share index at 59,000 points.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's Super Eagles arrive Monrovia ahead of Sunday's Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against the Lone Stars of Sierra Leone. Students of the Federal University of Gusau today trooped out on the ever-busy Gusau-Funtua Road in protest against the continuous abduction of students by armed bandits in Zamfara State. Hundreds of students blocked the major road linking Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, and Kaduna State. They said 5 of their colleagues were kidnapped yesterday night in Damba area, a community in the outskirts of Gusau. They have vowed that their second semester examination will not hold until their abducted colleagues are released.
These are students from the Federal University Gusau, Zamfara State, out on the road in protest, halting vehicular movement on the major highway linking Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, and Kaduna states. The action follows the kidnapping of 5 students of the institution by armed bandits on Friday night. The protesting students marched from Damba to Sabongida, a community in the outskirts of Gusau, the state capital, where they claim the kidnapping took place. An eyewitness narrates what happened.
They came to the house in the night. When they came, they picked the student and left. Soldiers came and stood for 5 minutes. All the asked us to come outside. All of us were outside standing. When the soldiers would tell us that we should stay, we should go, we're going to the road, they are coming. They did not keep, they only kept vigilante with us. Vigilante with Kalampu.
Just looking at it.
When they came back, next thing, we came back in the morning, we were all there coming to see the place. Then the school dean now came. He said that he's sorry for everything that happened. This is what happened, that is what happened. But what he is trying to say is that when they came, at least 15 hefty boys were supposed to be there to attack the bandits. Is that what the school dean is supposed to tell us? 5 people were kidnapped yesterday. 3 guys, 2 girls. Yes, they were kidnapped. Look at my house, look at their house. We were all at the scene.
Some of the students expressed their displeasure over the incessant abduction of their colleagues.
The government should please come to our rescue. We are living in fear. We don't sleep at night. We don't sleep. Every time, we can't even concentrate on our studies. We are going through a lot of emotional trauma.
Our life doesn't matter to school. In fact, our life don't matter to the government as entirely. This is not the first, not the second, not the third time that they are kidnapping us. Our students have been kidnapped, and the school does nothing about it. I have a problem that 3 weeks is going to be a graduate, and now it's very at risk. We don't know if it's safe or not, and the school doesn't really care about us. Is that in school? They don't really care about us. Is that in school? Is that in school?
The students alleged that some of their kidnapped colleagues paid ransom to regain their freedom, while many others are still in captivity. For the students' union leader in charge of Kebbi, Sokoto and Zamfara states, the university management must put security measures in place to avert a recurrence.
This very, very disheartening issue. 5 students were being kidnapped just recently, which majority of them are female students. We are not happy with this situation, and we are calling on the management to try and beat up the security of this very institution. And we are also calling on the Nigerian students to shun any violence, because violence cannot solve this very issue on ground.
The Vice-Chancellor of the university, Professor Muazu Abubakar, who was also at the protesting ground, declined interview when approached by Channel's television correspondent.
In Rivers State, the police have neutralized 3 kidnapped suspects in Emoha local government area. A statement by the Commissioner of Police, Polycarp Emeka, explained that on Friday, June the 16th, operatives of the intelligence unit led by their commander, CSP Adamu Amadu, at about 3:30 p.m., stormed the kidnappers' hideouts at a forest in the local government area. During a gun battle between the suspects and the operatives, 3 of the suspects were shot and injured and were confirmed dead after being rushed to the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital. 2 AK-47 rifles and 8 magazines fully loaded with 70 rounds of live ammunition and 10 cartridges were recovered from them. This came barely 4 days after 4 suspected kidnappers operating around Emoha Council were also killed by the police. In other security matters, the Department of State Services, DSS, says it has identified persons and groups planning to stage what it calls campaigns of calumny against it and the government over the suspended former central bank governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. In a statement by its spokesperson, Mr. Peter Afunaya, the DSS explains that the group intends to gather at different locations in Abuja and Lagos in the coming week with messages depicting the service and the government in bad light and calling for the immediate release of Mr. Emefiele. It also notes that there are moves to infiltrate its fold for the purpose of using disloyal staff of the DSS for subversive aims against its leadership, stating that the arrowheads of the plot are already under the watch and will be apprehended when and if it becomes necessary. The DSS warns those involved to desist from this plan. Meanwhile, the service says it has granted the family of Mr. Emefiele, medical officials and appropriate persons access to him, even before the court ordered it to do so. According to Mr. Afunaya, the service implements standard operating procedures on suspects, handling investigation to the latter, and respects the rule of law in compliance with democratic governance. As the fuel subsidy removal issue rages on, Nigerians are calling on the federal government to immediately set up a palliative package to build public support and gain legitimacy for the policy across the country. This is the suggestion of participants at a forum organized by the Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital.
Before the fuel subsidy regime ended, it was heavy toll on government finances, leaving little space for other national development priorities. That is why the Nigeria Institute of Social and Economic Research, NISA, in Ibadan, Oyo State, is bringing together experts to discuss about the positive and direct impact of fuel subsidy removal on the citizens.
Subsidies kept the price at...
The Director General NISA, Professor Antonia Simbene, notes that a resolution of the fuel subsidy conundrum with its attendant racketeering and corruption was long overdue, and government took the right and bold step to end payment of subsidy for petroleum.
As is typical of subsidy programs across the world, and especially in developing countries, the fuel subsidy regime increasingly led to unconscionable racketeering and a cesspool of corruption.
Neither DG, however, agree that government must find a way to reduce the direct harsh realities the masses are currently contending with.
The whole idea behind subsidy removal is that we can free money from that kind of a program into other activities that will impact the welfare of people. Activities like education, health, security, and the like.
The keynote address by Professor Adeola Adenikinju, head of the Department of Economics, University of Ibadan, where he indicates that rather than the poor being cajoled to believe that they would suffer the most over fuel subsidy removal.
What the president has done is to address critically those bleeds, those wounds, so that the patient can survive. So Nigeria has no other option, at this time, apart from what the president has done.
Professor Adenikinju reveals that the rich and smugglers greatly benefited from the subsidy.
What is happening now is also sending signal to the market. Okay, the markets, investors, and suppliers are now seeing where are the opportunities now to come in. So, in addition to what government is going to do, you're going to see the private investors, entrepreneurs also catching to provide alternatives, and opportunities for the government, for the public to come in.
Panelists at the seminar themed fuel subsidy removal, the why, how, and way forward, questioned the palliative provided to cushion the effects of fuel subsidy removal. Concerning implementation, the panelists expressed their fears over sincerity of purpose, as trust has been in short supply.
Initially, the government did not announce anything of such. It was when the pressure was too much on them from the Labour side, they now said these are what we have in place. It's a good thing, we embrace it, but we are afraid of the implementation. There have been a lot of promises here and there from the past administrations. So our fear is, hope the same thing will not, it wouldn't be business as usual.
The forum agrees that all hands must be on deck to right the several wrongs by the government, plug loopholes that encourage corruption to fester, and allow the citizens to begin to trust the government again.
Co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Mr. Bill Gates, will be in Nigeria next week to discuss global health and development with national and local leaders, foundation partners, scientists, and young innovators. The visit comes after a similar trip to China as part of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's commitment to work closely with communities and leaders to support innovation that can help accelerate progress across Africa. Mr. Gates and other foundation leaders are visiting to learn from partners helping to address polio, anemia, and other health threats to improve lives in Nigeria, as well as Niger Republic, where he will also be visiting, and throughout the continent. The philanthropist will also participate in a conversation with students and young leaders to gather insights and share perspectives on how science and innovation can create positive change and contribute to a brighter outlook for Africa. The moderated event, organized in partnership with Channels Television, is aimed at unleashing the power of youth in science and innovation and will be co-hosted by the Co-Creation Hub Nigeria and Lagos Business School. It will also be live-streamed across Africa by media partners, Africa.com and Channels Television. In part two, after the break, we take a look at the fight against corruption in the country and why some of the cases have dragged on for so long. That's in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Students of the Federal University Gusau protest continuous kidnapping in their areas of residence vow not to sit for exams until 5 of their colleagues, abducted by bandits last night, are free. Lagos State Building Control Agency is set to demolish 17 defective buildings at the Alaba International Market. Owners of structures say they have nowhere to go. Tech icon and co-chair of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, visits Nigeria next week to discuss global health and development and meet with young leaders. And it's Black Saturday in Uganda as about 40 pupils are killed by militants linked to Islamic State group after attacking a school in western part of the country. A total of 17 distressed buildings located within the Alaba International Market in the Ojo area of Lagos are set to be pulled down on Monday. This is according to the Lagos Building Control Agency, whose general manager, Mr. Gbolahan Oki, says final warning has been given to the occupants. He says that the demolition team will carry out the exercise on Monday as scheduled in order to avert another building collapse in Lagos.
This is the ever-busy Ojo Alaba International Market, where electronics and other items are sold. The Lagos State Building Control Agency team is here to mark some weak structures for demolition due to the volatile nature of the area. LAPCA and the Lagos State Environment and Special Offences Enforcement Unit are working as a team to carry out the exercise. About 17 distressed buildings used for commercial purposes within Alaba International Market have been identified, yet the people are still selling their goods under the dilapidated structures, not caring about their safety. But they are concerned about the quick notice for demolition, owing to the fact that the property owners still have to pay for development approval, despite the fact that the buildings have to go down.
All we see them coming here to mark the properties and so on. Later they send us a bill of about 24 million to pay. They give us the account number, the code numbers and everything, and we have been paying. As of yesterday, we paid some millions into the Access Bank of Lascar and so on. They said it's for the development of approval development of the structure, which is in excess of about 24 million.
All I heard that from the foundation, they didn't make the payment the way they're supposed to do that. And we are working towards that. So I don't know why they will just come over and break where I'm a family man. I have children, and I have no other thing apart from a shop here.
This particular 3-floor building is sinking. The ground floor is completely gone, and they have been served notices several times, but turned deaf ears. The general manager of LAPCA responds to the issues raised, explaining that some of them have been asked to vacate since 2016, but refused to move.
You can have a building plan approval today. It doesn't mean that you want to start the construction immediately. So if you want to start, we are not ghosts to know that we are going to read your mind to know you want to start construction. So it owns on you as a reliable Lagosian that did the normal thing to write a letter to Lagos State Building Control that you want to build. And we give you what we call an authorization with a green sticker, which means that you have performed the righteousness and that you can move to site. And this is when the Lagos State Building Control Officer can do what we call the day-to-day state certification, which you have paid for, which is the 35% of the money that you have paid during your approval process. And if you don't do that, what is expected of you? You build without an approval. So who gave you the approval? On what basis was your construction based on? All these properties have been served since 2016. When you look at 2016 to date, we are looking at 7 years. And if at all there is anybody that wants to be responsible in that environment and they want to do the right thing, 7 years is more than enough time for anybody to renovate or rehabilitate. Lagos State Building Controls have taken it, putting the bull by the horn, that all those buildings are going to go between now and Monday.
According to LAPCA, over 300 buildings are distressed in Lagos, and the state government says no failed structure will be spared at the expense of people's lives.
Nigeria is one of the countries which have perennially battled corruption with myriad of legislations aimed at tackling money laundering, bribery, and other related graft. Yet corruption continues to fight back despite measures deployed by various government agencies to arrest the menace. In this special report, our correspondent Kelly Egiga examines some of the hurdles and barriers stalling especially high-profile corruption cases in the country.
Nobody, no matter who and where, will be allowed to get away with the breach of the law or the perpetration of corruption and evil.
Promises.
We must set up institutions, strengthen them to prevent people from even touching the money. And that's what we are working on, and we are succeeding.
Promises.
The country now expects the judiciary to act with dispatch in all cases, especially on corruption.
More promises.
Financial crimes.
A major straw that broke the PDP's 16-year rule in Nigeria was pervasive corruption. And during his campaign, former President Muhammadu Buhari vowed to end corruption. 8 years after, it's largely been a tale of mixed bag.
This government's achievement in the area of the fight against corruption is highly unprecedented in the history of this country.
Some efforts have been made, some modest efforts have been made, but we have not, those efforts are not commensurate with the kind of expectations that Nigeria had.
There really has been no fight against corruption. It's been all song and dance. It's been more of motion without action.
The graft cases, especially over alleged misappropriation of funds by former governors and other public officers, are either ongoing or stalled. But despite constant media attention given to such arrests by anti-graft agencies, especially the EFCC, convictions have been rare, begging the question, why?
Political will by the leadership is largely responsible. Sometimes you get cases up to a certain level and they intervene that they want to apply political solution. What nonsense. Eh? If you know you are not interested in prosecuting a particular case in the first instance, why deploy resources?
The agencies are overwhelmed. If you look at the number of cases that they have in proportion to the number of lawyers available, you will know that they're overwhelmed.
So they are not as well resourced as we believe they are. So I think that's something that the government will have to work on. 2 will also be the burden, the evidence, the burden of proving some of this. The burden of proof, I think it's extremely high.
All the known politically exposed cases that you are aware of that are in court.
But for the EFCC, it's been a story of success. For instance, the Commission says it secured a total of 8,957 convictions from January 2016 to December 2022. In fact, in 2021, suspended EFCC chairman Abdulrashid Bawa and the Commission secured 2,220 convictions, which is 75.2% of the previous 5 years' records. But on the flip side, only 2 high-profile public office holders were in the list of convictions. Meanwhile, HEDA, a body that publishes a compendium of 100 high-profile corruption cases in Nigeria, says fraud allegedly committed by public officers in the last 15 years amounts to 21.63 trillion naira, which is almost equal to Nigeria's 2023 budget.
Especially the governors will continue claiming they are short on resources, but we've consistently faced the federal government avoiding the atrocities that are happening within the states. And the more we're able to bring these to the fore, the better we start putting the governors under the necessary, spotlight.
But there is a word of caution from the president, and whoever becomes the next Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice.
He must be a person of proven integrity, proven knowledge of the law, local and international. Somebody who has an in-depth knowledge of jurisprudence, of the workings of the law, who can properly guide.
The office of the Attorney General is really central to criminal justice. And it's not every kind of person that should occupy that office. And I think as much as possible, that office should be insulated from political interference.
The Office of the Attorney General that was meant to coordinate most of these activities and even supervise the anti-corruption agencies woefully failed in providing those leadership. And not only that, was also immersed in corruption activities and at the same time even frustrating some of the anti-corruption cases.
I am in severe pain. I can't touch this neck anymore. Please hold it, I beg you. Maybe by the time...
It is also worthy of mention that some politicians have either willingly or unwillingly introduced some elements of drama when faced with prosecution and the come in different scripts.
In recent times, Nigeria has experienced a consecutive drop in Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index ranking. In fact, the country scored 26 points in 2019. 25 in the 2020 assessment and 24 points in 2021 and 2022. But the expectation of many Nigerians at this time is that with a new government in place, there should be a renewed vigor to perhaps tackle corruption, beginning with these high-profile pending corruption cases in the country. From our Channels TV headquarters here in Lagos, I am Kelly Egiga.
Now let's examine this issue further, and we're being joined live from our Kano studio by the Executive Director of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CILAC, Mr. Anwar Rafsanjani. A pleasure having you with us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
How would you assess the anti-corruption fight in the country by the government as things stand today?
Well, the government just resumed now, and we have not yet to see proper agenda for the fight against corruption. And that is why civil society are worried and concerned that we are yet to see the direction of government in terms of policy, pronouncement, and action, beyond just the sack of, or rather the suspension of the EFCC chair, and maybe perhaps the invitation from the DSS to the former central bank, the former central bank of Nigeria. I think it is important, and that will really set the tone for the fight against corruption, if we see proper pronouncement and action, policy direction in the fight against corruption by Tinubu administration. This will go a long way in terms of sending a strong signal to Nigerians that corruption cannot be no longer tolerated or accommodated. So until when we see those, personal commitment from the government to begin to take drastic action towards reducing corruption because of its negative consequences, as we all know, it is as a result of corruption that we have found ourselves in the kind of development crisis that we have. Insecurity has increased because of corruption. Social amenities have collapsed because of corruption. Education, healthcare center, everything because of corruption. So corruption has done a terrible damage to our well-being in this country, and that is why what I expect this government, even though Tinubu administration has not yet pronounced anti-corruption as a major governance issue, but he must, if really we want to get out of this quagmire we find ourselves, and for the international community to have confidence in our country to invest, there must be clear policy statements and action by Bola Tinubu administration not to tolerate corruption. Because if we fail to do that, then it will be difficult for international community, for even the Nigerians, to believe that the government is out there to ensure that corruption and corrupt persons are not having their way. First thing that they need to do is to ensure that full implementation of national strategy on the fight against corruption. Secondly, politically exposed persons and public officials who have looted this country, they must be investigated and prosecuted. We have several of them, even the recent ministers and public officials that were involved in so many ponies, and they need to be called, investigated, and the anti-corruption agencies must also be resourced. They must be given necessary support and funding to be able to do their work, like Code of Conduct Bureau, EFCC, ICPC, all of them, they must be properly funded to be able to deal with issues of corruption. Judicial reform is key. There's no way you can actually fight corruption if the judiciary remains as a major concern for dealing with corrupt persons. We have international high-profile corruption cases that their names appeared in Pandora, Panama, and Paradise Paper. This government must have the will and interest to investigate the cases that involve Nigerians in this major international scam and scandal. That's the only way Tinubu administration can actually have the confidence of Nigerians and international community that he is out there. We must make sure that we block leakages. The oil theft that is going on in Nigeria, terrorism financing, all these, and assets that have been stolen, with all the local and international assets that have been stolen, we must see evidence of transparency in how they are managed. That's the only way the Tinubu administration can restore hope and confidence on both Nigerians and international community, and for the international community to even come to feel confidence to invest in Nigeria. As it is now, we don't want to just this media hype like we had during the Buhari administration, where concrete foundation of the fight against corruption were not established. Bola Ahmed Tinubu must discuss with the governors, must discuss with the local government to support and buy into the anti-corruption. That's what what we lack in the Buhari administration. You had over 20 governors from your ruling party, and you have not been able to start with them and actually get their support and confidence to the fight against corruption, because corruption is not just in the national level. At local, state, are all happening. And if we want to know the consequences of corruption, we must look at also what happens in the local government, in the state, and be able to have a system. We are happy that, for example, Kano and Lagos, they have set up anti-corruption agencies to be able to deal with the issues of corruption and also deal with so many victims of corruption. We urge the Bola Tinubu administration to equally make sure that state and local government buy into the fight against corruption and have full implementation of public procurement law, have full implementation of freedom of information, make sure that the whistleblowing is also passed, make sure that all the other anti-corruption initiatives initiated by either the former president or by even the Obasanjo administration, they are in full implementation. It is the only way that will guarantee Nigerians that corruption and corrupt people are not welcome. And Tinubu must not appoint anybody in public office who has corruption cases. If he does anything like that, it will not give confidence to Nigerians and international community.
Mr. Rafsanjani, you mentioned strengthening institutions like the EFCC. Can you quickly, if in 30 seconds or so, tell us, like a situation where we have the EFCC or the former EFCC boss, Abdul Rashid Bawa, currently undergoing investigation over allegations bordering on abuse of power. And this is what his predecessor, Ibrahim Magu, suffered a similar fate. So what does this trend say about the nation's fight against corruption?
Well, the reality is that, governments in Nigeria have turned EFCC into a political machinery to deal with perceived enemy rather than dealing with the real corrupt people. You will see them chasing shadow. I expected that, of course, Obasanjo, from Obasanjo up to this period, we had several, people who have presided over the affairs of the EFCC, and unfortunately, many of the chairmen that have served, they ended up in this same way. So we need to look at critically what are the problems, what are the things that are making our EFCC leadership to always being accused of this, even though sometimes most of these accusations were unfounded, were not real, but because the leadership that is in power, whether it is Buhari administration, whether it is Jonathan administration, whether it is Tinubu administration, they always want to control and use EFCC to deal with the perceived enemy. That's it. And this is very sad. That is why we want independence of anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria. EFCC, ICPC, Code of Conduct, they must be independent. They must be taken away from the political maneuver and control. That's the only way we can decisively deal with issues of corruption. But if on any flimsy and funny, allegation, you are dealing with the people who you have not properly investigated and you have not told the nation what exactly happens. Even Magu, when they remove him, we have not yet seen the report of what clearly he has done to deserve to be removed. So likewise to Bawa, let them come and tell the public exactly where he has done it wrong and what are the issues that surrounded that and what can we do to mitigate and block such kind of lapses if truly they happened. But as it is now, it's still allegation, and it has not been proven before Nigerians that this is what the EFCC chair has done, and this can also demoralize whoever is there. Even the acting EFCC chair now will be scared to take certain action that will touch politically exposed person, because once they are not happy with you, they can frame, they can maneuver, they can do all sorts of things to frame you. So that is why it is important that even the EFCC, ICPC, Code of Conduct, they must value integrity in the work that they are doing, and they must be careful so that they don't make mistakes that will give room to people who are willing to ensure that they indict them or they implicate them. So it is important we put integrity in the work that EFCC, ICPC, and Code of Conduct are doing, so that nobody can have any phony excuses to say that they are being accused of XYZ when we have not seen any fundamental, any evidence to show that. So it is important that the personnel that we have there are people of great character, are people who nobody can find them wanting in whatever they are doing, so that they can maintain the sanity and the dignity of those institutions. And if that happens and government come up with anything, Nigerians will protest. Nigerians will be the one to protect actually those agencies, because we know that they are doing very well and they are helping to minimize the consequences of corruption. But if the public, through the use or through the implementation of national strategy on the fight against corruption, are not included in the fight against corruption, it will be just the same way that it had been happening in the country. So it is important that we get the citizen buying. Everybody, no matter, even if you are a shoemaker, you are a security man, you are everything, whatever you are, you must buy into the fight against corruption. And Tinubu administration must make that very pronouncement commitment to it, so that he and his government can actually get kind of recognition and respect in the community of nations. Anything short of that, I am telling you, Nigeria's situation will remain the same, and Nigerians will continue to suffer the consequences of corruption in Nigeria.
Many thanks, Executive Director Mr. Anwar Afajani, for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10.
Thank you very much.
The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, says it will carry out urgent rehabilitation on a damaged road linking several communities in Ahoda West local government area in Rivers State. The road has been in deplorable condition owing to the gully erosion caused largely by the Orashi River, which passes through the area. Speaking during an on-the-spot assessment of the road, the NDDC Managing Director, Mr. Samuel Obuku, who was accompanied by other top officials from the Commission, promised that remediation work will begin immediately. This is the erosion-damaged Akinima-Jonkrama Road in Ahoda West local government area of Rivers State. The road, which provides access to 2 major oil fields and several oil wells, has remained deplorable for years now, and residents fear it will soon be washed off by the Orashi River. The last 48 hours have been frustrating for this heavy-duty truck driver and his helpers.
Adiba oil field, location is at the front. Oshe field is at the back. But we have been suffering. Look at there. Is it any road here? No road. There is no road here. Our community, we are suffering. No way to go to market. The mothers and the fathers, they are there. No way to carry their goods to the market. We want them to come and do this road for us so that we will not have this road. Look at, I'm a driver. Look at that motor is the one I'm driving. I've been here since yesterday night. No way, this motor sink here. We have been going, look at this stone. We went to inside that place that's spoiled to bring out that stone so that we can use it to fill this place before we can pass.
This road is as bad as the word bad, because at some point, criminals use here as a point to stage their criminal attacks on the commoners flying this road. And we've called on the necessary parastatals to come fix it. The state government is aware of this road, the Shell Oil Company, NNPC, RG, everybody is aware of it. I don't know why they've refused to come fix it.
Following the outcry by residents and commuters, the managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, Mr. Samuel Obuku, leads other directors to the site for an on-the-spot assessment. He assures them of the Commission's plans to make the route motorable again.
We've all studied it here, we've all put it together, we've come up with measures of immediate, short-term and a long-term solution. I think the long-term solution is how to ensure that there is shore protection to protect the road, but the immediate is just to ensure that at least the road is passable for now by commuters, and we have a short-term solution too, which is to create an alternative route. But while we are thinking of creating an alternative route, at least let the road be passable.
Aside the short and long-term solution promised by the NDDC, residents here are calling for the dredging of this river, which they believe is a major cause of the damage on the road. The Nigerian Guild of Editors Biennial Convention has ended in Owerri, the Imo State capital, with Mr. Eze Anaba of the Vanguard newspaper emerging as the president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. He polled a total of 250 votes to beat his closest rival, Mr. Bolaji Adebi, the executive editor of Western Post newspaper, who polled 81 votes. In his acceptance speech, he pledged to uphold the constitution of the Guild and lead the campaign against policies that undermine media freedom in the country.
I'm clear as to the direction I believe we should go, and I will do everything to work with all of you to achieve our Guild's vision and mission, and to ensure the support we all need to flourish in our profession at the profoundly important social, political, and economic realities and development in our country today.
Before the election, the chief host, Governor Hope Uzodinma, challenged the members and the media on their role in developmental journalism and constructive criticism.
I am impressed that you have chosen this path of self-examination, which I consider germane in our collective bid to enhance good governance and strengthen our democracy. The last time you were here, I harped on the need for journalists to embrace developmental journalism in our quest to sustain and strengthen our democracy. While the media have the responsibility of holding public officers to account, they should, in addition, encourage the government through constructive criticisms and well-intentioned suggestions on how things could be done differently to achieve better results.
A coalition of sickle cell non-governmental organizations is urging the federal government to prioritize healthcare and ensure adequate funding and research to mitigate the spread of sickle cell. The coalition made the plea during a red umbrella walk for sickle cell disorder in Lagos in commemoration of the 2023 World Sickle Cell Day, celebrated annually on June the 19th. The walk kicked off from Surulere local government headquarters, with the members walking several streets and seeking public understanding of policies that improve the lives of people with sickle cell disorder in the country. The coalition includes Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria, Sickle Cell Advocacy and Management Initiative, Tony May Foundation, Sickle Cell Aid Foundation, Noah's Ark Foundation for Sickle Cell, and Solid Foundation.
Today's work is not just a symbolic gesture, but a catalyst for a tangible change. As we move forward, let us keep the power of hope in our hearts and mind. Let us remember the countless individuals impacted by sickle cell, and let their resilience inspire us to go beyond our limits. To the medical community, we invite you to share your expertise, engage in knowledge exchange, and contribute to a developing effective treatment strategy. To the government, we implore you to recognize the urgency of this specific issue and work towards implementing policies that prioritize healthcare and the well-being of those living with sickle cell.
The thing is, we always encourage that people come for what we call genetic counseling, and then to know your genotype, know whether you're AA or SS or AS, and what we do as an organization is we carry it to schools, to young people, so that we know in early enough, even before they begin to date or have plans for marriage or have families of their own, because this is an inherited disorder, it's a genetic disorder, so they need to know how it is inherited. So genetic counseling and testing.
Time to find out what's happening in the world of business. Laddie Williams has all the details.
Thanks, Melinda. Let's take a look at how money performed this week. The Nigerian exchange closed bullish as the all-share index appreciated by 5.49% at the week ended 16th of June, 2023. The all-share index hit the 60K level within the week, but settled at 59,000 points. Activity levels were strong as traded volume and value were in the green. Sectoral performance was positive as the insurance, banking, and consumer goods and the oil and gas indices posted gains, while industrial goods counter was the lone loser. FTN cocoa processors emerged top gainer for the week as the stock price appreciated by 45.16%, while the Initiate PLC, that's in waste management, led the decliners. Meanwhile, Unity Bank for Africa PLC topped the trades by volume this week, followed by Guarantee Trust Holding Company PLC. And positive sentiment was also seen in the unlisted equities market. The NASD OTC index and the market value appreciated by 1.04% to end the week. The total volume traded in the week was 13.45 million units compared to 27.58 million units in the previous week, leading to a 51.21% decrease in NASD trade volume. There was a 64.06% decrease in the total value traded during the week. NASD investors traded a total of 80.18 million units compared to 223.11 million in the previous week. Industrial and General Insurance PLC led the top gainers for the week, followed by 11 PLC and Central Securities Clearing Systems PLC. Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC was the sole loser this week, with the top trades by volume due to sell pressure. And Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, and Binance.US have reached an agreement with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to keep U.S. customer assets within the country until a lawsuit filed by the regulatory agency is resolved. The agreement, which was approved today by the federal judge overseeing the case, restricts access to these assets to only Binance.US employees to prevent them from being moved offshore. The SEC has sued Binance, its CEO Champeng Zhao, and Binance.US's operator, alleging various misconduct such as inflating trading volumes, misusing customer funds, and misleading investors. The agreement does not resolve the lawsuit, but includes measures to ensure Binance.US officials do not have access to certain private keys and tools. And that's it on Business News. Back to Melinda with the rest of the news at 10.
Nigeria's Super Eagles have arrived in Monrovia ahead of tomorrow's 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying clash with Sierra Leone. The three-time African champions arrived in the Liberian capital in the early hours of today. Nigeria sits in second spot in Group A, a point behind Guinea-Bissau, who have played 5 matches. Victory for the Eagles on Sunday will lift them back to the top of the group and guarantee presence at the 34th Africa Cup of Nations to be staged in Côte d'Ivoire next year. The match will be played at the Samuel Kanondo Stadium starting from 4 p.m. Liberian time on Sunday. In tennis, Jan-Lennard Struff fought back to beat 4th seed Hubert Hurkacz to go through to the final of the Stuttgart Open. After dropping the first set, the German battled back to beat his Polish opponent 3-6, 6-3, 6-3 and set up a meeting with Francis Tiafoe in Sunday's final. American Francis Tiafoe reached his first tour-level grass court final after defeating Manton Forzik of Hungary 7-6, 6-3. Secured his win in 1 hour and 37 minutes. The 25-year-old will face Jan-Lennard Struff of Germany on Sunday. Former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson has inaugurated a boxing ring at the Carlton Hotel in Cannes. The retired American boxer also posed for pictures at the Southern France event. 40 years earlier, another boxing legend, Muhammad Ali, posed outside the same hotel for an iconic shot by photographer Richard Mullo. Approximately 40 people, most of them students, have been killed at a school in Uganda by rebels linked to the Islamic State group. Another 8 are in critical condition after the attack on a secondary school in western Ugandan district. The National Police spokesperson, Fred Enanga, clarifies that the boys who were staying in their dormitories at the school are amongst the dead, while others, mostly girls, were abducted by the group. The attackers are said to have set fire to the students' mattresses. Authorities blame the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, that's a Ugandan group based in the Democratic Republic of Congo, for the attack, which happened late on Friday night. Many of the bodies have been deposited at the Brewa Hospital. In a statement on Twitter, defense spokesperson Felix Kulayinge said soldiers are pursuing ADF insurgents towards the DRC's national park. The Ugandan army has also been deployed and sent planes to help track the rebel group. African leaders have presented a 10-point proposal for putting an end to the 16-month-old conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The heads of state, including the presidents of South Africa, Cameroon, Senegal, and Zambia, were visiting Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky. The 10-point proposal includes peace negotiations by diplomatic approaches, respect of sovereignty of states and peoples, according to the UN Charter, and ensuring export of grain and fertilizers, amongst other items. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa briefed the press conference after the sit-down with President Zelensky. The African peace delegation is billed to meet with the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, as well.
It's also feeling the negative impact of this war. Our grain prices have gone up and there's a shortage. Fertilizer prices have also shot up. So even as we are thousands of kilometers away as African countries, we are feeling the impact of this war. And we say that when it comes to things like grain and fertilizers, there should be an opening up of the logistics so that grain and fertilizers must get to the market.
And the main news again. Students of the Federal University in Gusau, Zamfara State today trooped out in protest over incessant kidnapping in their areas of residence. They vowed not to sit for exams until 5 of their colleagues abducted by bandits last night were freed. The Department of State Services, DSS, said it had identified persons and groups planning to stage a campaign of calumny against it and the government over the suspended former central bank governor Godwin Emefiele. And in Uganda, about 40 students have been killed by militants linked to Islamic State group after attacking a school in the western part of the country. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Kinlami on behalf of the team. Good night.